It's the end of our time and talent season, but first I'm going to tell you about Paul on the Areopagus, which is this bit of ancient Athens, home of logicians and philosophers. It's where they prized reason and thinking, and they had also their temples, including this one, to the unknown God, which is interesting. Then, just like now, people were looking for the answers, for what is underneath it all, what's behind everything, what's going on. It can't just be the reason and the logic. There must be something else. This worship of an unknown God seems sensible to me, although perhaps it was just a bit of an insurance policy for them. All right, we've got a God of this, we've got a God of that. We better make sure we've covered our losses with this unknown God in case we missed someone. But I doubt it. They were curious people, and they recognized that there must be something going on. And we all need to recognize and think about who we worship. You've got to serve someone, the prophet said. We're all going to worship something or someone, be it a political party or holidays or money or status or the things that numb us and distract us. What is it that you spend your time oriented around? It's going to be something we should choose. I meet people who tell me, I'm not ready for church. I'm not sure about all this Jesus malarkey, but there is something out there, isn't there? There must be something behind all this. There's something bigger. There's some kind of purpose. We recognize this. Paul says the world is made that we grope for God. We're inching towards something that helps us make sense of it all. And if there is, if you think about it logically, and I think that this works, if what we see in the world that chimes with us is love and connection and society and beauty and joy, if those are the good bits that we see that give us hope, then that tells us that that's what God is like. It is, at the same time for me, as somebody, I like to think I'm a bit logical, engineering degree, maths teaching background, it is both completely ridiculous and absurd to think that God made everything and walked about as Jesus Christ, and yet also it is the thing that makes the most sense of it all at the same time. Because if God was going to come as a human being, if God is love, then that human being, that man as it was, would be a man of wisdom and justice and love, and a man making things better as Jesus. And it makes sense to me that if you came and you lived in this world like that the powers and structures of the world would want to kill you and get rid of you and shut you up. But it also makes sense that if that person came and actually was God, that death wouldn't win. It does sort of logically hold together to me. If God is, and if God is love, then that God looks like Jesus. And we don't have to just sit and say, oh, I am in awe of the universe and it's the unknown God. As much as that makes sense, God turned up. So God is mysterious and unknowable, but also knowable and looks like Jesus. God always claimed to be a God of justice, mercy and peace, and to be love. And that's the life you see Jesus living in the Gospels. And it's still the life you see when church gets it right. Church has not had the best reputation over the years. I will accept that. Not every church has always been a blessing. But by and large, lots of the good things we see in the world has been Christians so filled with love, as Bonhoeffer says, it makes atheists question their unbelief. People like Martin Luther King, people like Mother Teresa, people down the centuries that have just changed the world around them in love, lots of those people have been Christians. That, to me, points to the fact that this is all true. This is what it looks like when love is at work in the world. That way of seeing the world, we call that repenting, changing your mind, going, oh, it's not unknown. Maybe it's Jesus. That's changing your mind. That's the repenting that we're called to do. So we're called to follow that Jesus, that God, and say, I'm in. That's the way that makes the most sense to me. And if you're still wondering about that, then let me encourage you to maybe have a think again about what Jesus claimed about him being God, about him being love. Take that seriously, because even though it is ridiculous, it is the thing that makes the most sense to me. End of sermon. Now I've got to try and pithily join that to time and talent, and I can't. So they're just two different things. But I think they're not different things. If that's all true, something going on with my microphone. Normally it's the wire at this end. I'll grab the handheld. Is that better? Bear with. All right. If that's all true, if we think that actually God loves us so much, he came down and walked about as a man and all of that stuff, if that's true, and through that we become more loving and we become more kind and we become a blessing to the people around us, then it's worth us getting together as the church and saying, how can we do that better? What's next? Right? Our mission, when we recognize that, is first of all to say, I want to take that seriously. I want to do better. Like Olivia was saying, one of the best things about doing the kids' work isn't for the kids, it's for her. Like taking church seriously helps you do life, helps you do your faith. And if faith matters, it's worth doing well. So that's the first thing. But our second thing is to say, if God is at work, if the God of mission is doing stuff, then we're called to join in and say, what can I do? How can I help? What's my part in what we're all up to? Like, we found the good stuff. We've got this treasure. What's going on? We're going to make sure in a second that you've all got your time and talent sheets. We do this every few years. We've got a few left. And some of those are things that will help you take hold of your discipleship, specifically about being in a small group. But I would say all of them, as we've heard, I didn't set Olivia up to say that, but here in my sermon it says, as we do these things with each other, as we serve, it's good for us. We kind of knock the corners off each other. We get closer to God. There's lots of things that we do here at church, and I want them all to be a joy. We're going to have a think about them. I've got lots of these areas picked out on the walls. So make sure you can see them. You may or may not have the right glasses on this morning, as I know sometimes I don't. So it says at the back, AV and techie stuff. We need, as you can see, we need people to make this all work and cope when it goes wrong and I haven't checked things. AV and techie stuff. Kids and youth stuff, which is going out with Olivia, Nicola or Harriet on Sunday mornings, or it's staying here with early years people. We're starting to think about how can we look after them and help tiny ones be part of the service, or it's drop-in on a Wednesday, or maybe it's something else, and it's working with Brenda and Sandra when the schools come in, or it's barn babies with Fiona. Lots of different bits of kids and youth stuff. Old folks, it was funny earlier, two of our older folks sat right by this sign that says old folks. I wasn't trying to label them. But we have lots of stuff that's going on with older folks. So that's TAG. You could join in with Sue on every other Tuesday, or you could be part of our ministry to the care home. We go twice a year up to St. Luke's. We'd like to go more often. Or you could join in with Cafe Revive, which is, it is a dementia thing, but it's more generally for anybody, but it has a lot of older folks come to it. Is that what you're called to? Churchyard and eco stuff. We have a bunch of people who mow the grass and make sure that that's all working, and the sheep are, well, the one sheep now is fine. Maybe that's your calling. They have tons of fun on Friday mornings. Welcome and coffee and hospitality. Somebody's got to make sure there's tea and coffee when we get here on a Sunday morning. Somebody's got to make sure there's that when we're doing the tombola and whatnot. Somebody's got to stand by the door and say, hello, how are you? It's nice to know you, and to remember their name and to shake their hands and to make them feel at home. That's really important. Somebody's got to do leading and preaching, big scary thing. Not most of us, but one or two of you might. That's your area. Making music. We need more people to do that always, because it takes all of us. Maybe you've got a secret talent I don't know about, and Steve will need to know. Steve's not here this morning, but we can point you at him. Or Jonathan, perhaps. Intercessions and Bible readings. Somebody's got to stand at the front and do that. It's not quite as scary as leading and preaching, but it is at the front. Pastoral care. Somebody's got to go and sit with people. And we have systems, we'd like to make them better. A few more people saying, I want to be part of that. Visiting people, listening to people, taking them home communion. And then behind the scenes stuff. Maybe you don't want anyone to ever see you ever, but you're quite happy to be at the back, making sure things just get done. So maybe that's being on team warden, or it's setting up the altar table, or verging, like making sure baptisms and funerals and things like that go well. Maybe that's your area. What I'm going to ask you to do in a moment, we're going to think about which things we would most want to do, we're most good at doing, which things we might hate to do. I'm going to ask you to move, and when you get there, we're going to see who's around you, who's your people. If you're not very movie, point to it when I ask you to, okay? Because this doesn't stop you. Val, you're not very movie, are you, Val? No. Hasn't stopped Val. She's still doing the intercessions. She's still coming to church. She welcomes people. I just have to drag them over to her and sit them next to her to get welcomed. So it hasn't stopped her doing stuff. It changes it. But for today, it's going to stop you. You're going to point at the thing that you would most like to do or least like to do when I ask you. Have you got it? All right. So would you, if you are sufficiently movie, go and stand by the thing that if you had all the time in the world and money was no object and time was no object and you were completely free, which would you most like to do? If you've got 2 or 3, we'll get to those later. But if you could do anything in church and you would love to do it, and these have all got to be done, which one would you most like to do? Stand by it. However old you are, go, and you don't have to go with your parents. You might not have brought your parents. The music, you can go do making music, yeah. And if you can't move, then I'll ask you to point in a moment. Which thing would you most like to do? However old you are. If you can move at all, you can move. You can move. It could be a thing you're already doing. You're there. Shuffle along so I can see. What would you most like to do? Where are you going, David? Pick a thing. Because it's going to help people spot their tribe. Where would you most like to go? And if you are not able to move, then point at the thing where you would most like to be now, so we can see where you would most like to be. Use your cane, make it really obvious. Where would you most like to be if you're not in the area? Isn't that interesting? So look around at the people with you. Hello? He's not making music. You should definitely be at making music. Yeah, making noise. These are the people around you. This is your tribe. These are your crew. Isn't this good news? Keep an eye out for them. All right. Oh, we've got a couple of us over at Leading and Preaching. All right, next question. Just keep in mind for a moment, are there any places where there isn't really enough people? Isn't that interesting? There's hardly anybody stood at pastoral care. At some point, we're going to have to think about that. We're not, we're sort of on bare bones there. Maybe we need to have a think about that for this church. I'm really pleased to see a bunch of people at Kids and Youth. All right, next. Some of us had more than one thing in our heads, right? Someone's like, oh, I've really got to choose. If the first thing was already sorted out and you didn't have to do it, or you've got space to do 2, what was your second thing? Go to that. Or maybe the thing that you don't really want to do, but you will if you have to because you can see that there's a gap. Go to your second thing. So either the other thing you would really like to do or the thing that you recognize it's a thing and, all right, you'll dig into that for a bit. What's your second thing? Have a think. Interesting, because we've got those 2 categories on our time and talent. Time and talent has, yes, please, I really want to do that. And it has, well, go on, I will if I have to, because it's important. All right, oh, good. People are getting visited now. That's nice. And we've still got some people doing kid stuff, and the AV team are going to be all right. That's good news. And we've got some team warden people. We've got junior team warden growing over there, getting stuff done on a Sunday morning and setting up the communion table. Brilliant news. And if you haven't moved, if you're not very movie, point. Who's on which team? Okay, point. Brilliant. Okay, a whole music group now. And I've got one other from this morning as well. Somebody's going to sing. That's next week. All right. Are you all in this music? And last one, which is the one you would least like to do? If we would really have to get the thumb screws out, and if I made you do it, you'd be leaving church. Which is the one you would least like to do? Because this will just help you find your tribe. Which is the one that, if you were the only one left in the church, you still wouldn't be doing it? Or the preaching. Okay. All right. Everybody's at leading and preaching, right? Which one are you least at? Which one would you least like to do? What's the one you would hate doing? That's very brave. Well done. Isn't that interesting? Because this too tells you, like your tribe, these are your people. Which one would you least like to do? Some of us really don't want to go around and do a lot of visiting. It's really honest, and we should be like that. Lots of us don't want to preach. Fair enough. I will probably not make you. Lots of us don't really want to, do I have to extrovert on a Sunday morning? Thank you very much. I'd rather not. Yeah, are you the indoor type? No. I'd be here. I would. That's the one I'm at. It's my least favourite thing. You don't like old people. Interesting. Some of us don't want to do the tech stuff. You don't want to do the organising bits. No. Interesting. And a whole load of us don't want to preach. Here's what I would say to you. Have a think. Can you hear me? Church? Just for a moment. Right, so I'm going to give you a moment. We'll play a song, have a think, and a pray while we're doing that. And you talk to your people who you found in your tribes. And maybe you say to them, you know what, I think you could do that. I would say this, I'm not going to make you do the thing that you hate. I'm not even going to make you do the thing that you love. I want church to be a joy, which does occasionally mean that we all have to do the thing that we don't love it. It's our second thing, and it's important, and maybe it's a joy doing it with other people. But I have spoken to too many people over the years who the thing that they least wanted to do was the thing God was asking them to do. So just maybe that's going on. Have a word with God. I'm not going to make you, but if you need to come and see me, we'll sort that out. Yes? No. You know, this was just to explore. Maybe you're too busy and you have no time to do this. You'd like to do that. Maybe you went straight to that, but you haven't got the time. I would say this as well. I was at a church once when we lived near Geneva, and they were busy people. If you ended up in Geneva, it's because you were the head of the UN, or you were the ambassador for your country. They were busy people there. And we would say to them, listen, I know we can't all join in at church because we're busy. You don't have to do anything. Just come on Sunday and go away. Those people were still on the coffee rota because it's just nice to do something. They still wanted to show up at least once a term and mow the grass, that sort of a thing. It is good to join in, even if you're busy. But I'm not going to bend anybody's arms. We're going to play a song. I'm sure we can find one that'd be worth having a listen to. Chat to each other, and feel free to say to each other, oh, actually, I can see you doing that, or you'd be good at this, or whatever. Got a few minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much.